In the small village of Umudo, people lived simple lives. They farmed, fished, and told stories under the moonlight. Among them was a young man named Obinna. He was kind, strong, and known for his hard work. Many girls admired him, but he had never chosen a wife. One day, as Obinna walked by the river, he saw a woman sitting on a rock. She was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her skin was smooth like fresh palm oil, and her eyes sparkled like the stars. Her name was Adana. "Who are you?" Obinna asked. "I am new in this village," Adana said with a soft smile. Obinna felt his heart beat faster. He had never seen her before, but he could not stop looking at her. Obinna and Adana became close. They met every evening by the river, talking and laughing. The villagers were curious about Adana, but she was kind to everyone. "She is different," Obinna's mother, Mama Uju, said. "But if she makes you happy, marry her." Obinna smiled. He had already made up his mind. A great wedding was planned. The villagers cooked large pots of jollof rice, roasted yams, and pounded fufu. The drummers played their best beats, and the dancers moved with joy. On the wedding day, Adana looked like a goddess. Her red wrapper shone, and her gold earrings sparkled. Obinna felt like the luckiest man in the world. But something was strange. Adana had no family at the wedding. "Where are your parents?" an elder asked. "They are far away," Adana said quickly. "They could not come." The elder frowned but said nothing. After the celebration, Obinna led Adana into their new hut. The night was quiet, and the oil lamp flickered. Obinna smiled. "Finally, we are together, my wife." Adana smiled back but said nothing. Instead, she looked nervous. "Are you okay?" Obinna asked. I need to tell you something," Adana whispered. Before she could speak, a loud sound filled the hut. SSSSSSS. Obinna froze. The sound was like a snake hissing. Adana stepped back, her body shaking. Then, before Obinna's eyes, she changed. Her legs fused together, her skin turned green, and her eyes became yellow like a serpent's. Obinna screamed. You are a snake." Obinna ran out of the hut, shouting, "Help! Help!" The villagers woke up. They rushed to Obinna's hut with torches and sticks. "Where is she?" Mama Uju cried. Obinna pointed inside, shaking with fear. The elders entered. But Adana was gone. Only a long, shining snake tail could be seen disappearing through the window. The village chief, Papa Oak, called for a meeting. "Who was she?" people whispered. "I knew something was wrong," the elder who had questioned her said. Then, an old woman named Neko spoke. "I have heard of such a thing before," she said. "Long ago, a great river goddess had a daughter. She was cursed to live as a snake by night and a woman by day. She could only break the curse if a man truly loved her." The villagers gasped. "Did she love Obinna?" someone asked. "Maybe she did," Neka said. "But she was afraid of being discovered." Obinna could not sleep. He sat outside, staring at the moon. "I must find her," he said. "But she is a snake." Mama Uju cried. "I don't care," Obinna said. "She is my wife." With a small bag and a strong heart, he left the village to search for Adana. Obinna walked for hours, guided only by the moonlight. He followed the path toward the river, hoping to find Adana. His heart was heavy, but his love for her was stronger than his fear. The elders had said she was cursed. But was she truly dangerous? He had to know. The river was silent, except for the gentle sound of water flowing. Obinna called out, "Adana. Where are you?" No answer. Then, he heard it, SSSSSSS. Obinna turned. Behind a large tree, two glowing yellow eyes stared at him. Slowly, Adana stepped into the moonlight. She was in her snake form, her green scales shining. Obina did not run. "Adana," he whispered. "Come back home with me." Tears welled in her yellow eyes. "I cannot," she said. Her voice was soft but filled with sadness. "If I go back, the villagers will kill me." "No," Obina said firmly. "They will listen. I will protect you." Adana shook her head. "You don't understand. The curse is strong. I will always be a snake at night. No one will accept me." Obina reached out his hand. "I accept you." Adana hesitated. Then, slowly, she transformed back into a woman. She stepped toward him, but before she could touch his hand, a loud roar filled the night. The river began to shake. The water rose into the air, twisting and turning like a giant snake. Then, from the depths of the river, a woman appeared. Her skin was dark and smooth, her hair flowed like water, and her eyes shone like the sun. She wore a robe made of silver fish scales. "Who dares to disturb my daughter?" she thundered. Obina fell to his knees. "Great Mother of the river," he said. "I love Adana. I do not care about her curse. Please, let her be free." The river goddess stared at him. Then she turned to Adana. "Do you love this man?" she asked. Adana nodded. "Yes, Mother. But I am afraid." The goddess sighed. "Fear has kept you in this curse for too long. Love is the only thing that can break it." The goddess lifted her hand. The river glowed bright blue. A strong wind blew through the forest. Adana cried out as her body began to change. Her green scales faded. Her yellow eyes softened. And then, she was just a woman. The curse was broken. Obina held her close. "You are free." Adana wept with joy. "Thank you, Mother." The goddess smiled. "Your love saved you." Then she vanished into the water, leaving only ripples behind. Obina and Adana returned to Umudo. The villagers were afraid at first, but when they saw she was no longer a snake, they welcomed her. A great feast was held. People danced and sang. Adana, once a stranger, was now part of their family. And so, the man who loved the snake became the man who saved the woman. Under the bright full moon, Obina and Adana lived happily ever after. Got it? I'll expand the story with more chapters, adding deeper suspense, cultural richness, and unexpected twist while keeping it engaging. Stay tuned. Though the villagers accepted Adana, some still whispered behind her back. "How can we trust her?" an old woman named Ifeoma muttered. "She was once a snake." "Obina has brought a curse upon us," another man, Ikin, said. Obina ignored them, but Adana felt the weight of their words. Even though she was free from the curse, fear still followed her. One evening, as Adana fetched water from the river, she heard a voice. "Daughter of the river, you are never truly free." Adana dropped her calabash, her heart pounding. She looked around, but no one was there. That night, Obina woke up to find Adana standing outside, staring at the moon. Her eyes looked distant, almost serpent-like. "Adana," he whispered. She blinked and turned to him. I don't know what's happening to me." Worried, Obina and Adana visited Dibia Okoro, the village diviner. He stared deep into the fire and shook his head. "The river never lets go of its own." Obina frowned. "But the curse was broken." Dibia Okoro sighed. "The river goddess may have lifted the spell, but Adana still carries the blood of the water spirits. If she does not choose her path soon, she may be pulled back into the river forever." Adana gasped. "I don't want to go back." "You must make a sacrifice," Dibia Okoro said. "A powerful one." Dibia Okoro led them deep into the forest, where an ancient shrine stood. "You must give up something precious," he said. "Only then will you be free." Adana thought hard. Then, with a heavy heart, she spoke. "I will give up my voice to the river. I will never speak to the spirits again." Dibia Okoro nodded. "So be it." He chanted, and the air grew thick with magic. Adana felt a sharp pain in her chest. Then, silence. The whispers in her mind were gone. But had she truly escaped her past? "I keep adding more chapters to reach your word count goal. Do you like the direction of the story so far?" "Great. I'll continue expanding the story with more suspense, twist, and cultural depth. Here's the next part." Adana's sacrifice had worked. She no longer heard the voices of the river spirits. But something else had changed. She could still speak, but her words felt weak, like they had lost power. And worst of all, the villagers noticed. "Why does she look so tired?" Mama Uju asked. "Ever since she went to the diviner, she has been different," Ifioma muttered. Obina saw the change too. At night, Adana barely slept. She often woke up gasping for air, as if she had been drowning in her dreams. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked one evening. Adana forced a smile. "I am fine." But she was not. Deep inside, she feared that the river would never truly let her go. One night, a great storm swept through Omudo. The river swelled, spilling onto the land. The villagers ran for safety, but a strange figure rose from the water. It was a woman, tall and graceful, with skin as dark as the deep sea. Her silver robes shone even in the rain. The villagers gasped. It was Nwanyi Mmiri, the river goddess. She walked through the village, her eyes searching. Then, she stopped in front of Obina and Adana's hut. "Adana," she called. Obina grabbed his wife's hand. "Don't go." Adana trembled, her feet glued to the ground. "You gave up your voice, but you did not give up your blood," the goddess said. "You are still one of us." Adana shook her head. "I am human now. I chose love. I chose to stay." The goddess sighed. "Love is strong, child. But destiny is stronger. If you do not return to the river, the balance will be broken. You must come home." Obina stepped forward. "She is my wife. She belongs here." The goddess looked at him with pity. "Do you think love can change what she is?" Adana's hands clenched into fists. "I was a snake. But I am no longer one. I will not return." The goddess's eyes darkened. "Then you leave me no choice." She lifted her hands, and suddenly, Adana gasped in pain. Her legs turned cold, her skin tingled, and a terrible feeling spread through her body. Obina held her tightly. "What are you doing to her?" The goddess's voice echoed. "If she refuses the river, then she must give up all traces of it. Forever." Lightning struck the ground, and Adana let out a scream. Then, silence. The storm stopped. The river returned to its normal flow. The goddess was gone. And Adana, she fell into Obina's arms, unconscious. Days passed before Adana woke up. When she did, something was different. Her eyes no longer glowed in the dark. The strange dreams were gone. The whispers, the cold skin, the connection to the river, all of it had vanished. She was fully human. The villagers, once afraid, now rejoiced. "She is free," they shouted. "The river has let her go." Obina smiled, holding Adana close. "You are truly mine now," he whispered. Adana smiled back. But deep inside, a small part of her wondered, had she really won, or had she lost something greater? Months passed, and life in Umudo returned to normal. Adana and Obina worked on their farm, side by side. their love grew stronger. But late at night, when the village was quiet, Adana sometimes stood by the river, staring at the water. Not because she wanted to return, but because she wondered. Would the river ever truly forget her? Got it? Here's the continuation with more chapters, adding depth, suspense, and cultural richness. Adana tried to live happily in Umudo, but something always felt off. Each night, she dreamed of the river, though she no longer heard the whispers. Sometimes, she saw shadows moving beneath the water, not human, not animal, but something else. One evening, as she fetched water, she noticed the river was strangely still. The frogs were silent. The usual chirping of crickets had stopped. Then, a ripple. Adana gasped and stepped back. But before she could run, a voice whispered from the depths. "You are one of us. You will never escape." She turned and ran back home, her heart. Obina saw the fear in Adana's eyes. "We must see Mama Chidelu," he said. Mama Chidelu was the oldest healer in Umudo. She had seen many strange things in her lifetime. When Adana told her about the voices, Mama Chidelu's expression grew serious. "You cut ties with the river," she said, her voice heavy with wisdom. "But the spirits do not forget so easily." Adana swallowed hard. "What do they want?" Mama Chidelu sighed. "The river spirits do not take rejection lightly. If they cannot have you back, they may take something else instead." Obina's grip on Adana tightened. "What do we do?" "You must seek protection," the old woman said. "Before it is too late." That night, Mama Chidelu prepared a sacred mixture of herbs, oils, and red clay from the earth. She painted symbols on Adana's arms and forehead, chanting old words that had been passed down for generations. "You must not touch the river for 7 days," she warned. "If you do, the spirits will find their way back to you." Adana nodded, determined. But deep inside, fear still lurked. The first few days passed without trouble. Adana avoided the river, and life continued as usual. But on the 6th night, something changed. A terrible cry echoed through the village, a wailing sound so loud that even the trees seemed to shiver. People ran outside in fear. And then, someone shouted, "The river! The river is flooding!" Adana and Obina rushed to see. The calm waters of the Nduka River had turned wild and angry, rising higher and higher, spilling into the village paths. Children screamed. Farmers ran to save their crops. The river was claiming the land. Adana's stomach twisted. Was this because of her? By morning, the flood had receded, but the damage was done. Homes were destroyed. Crops were ruined. The village elders gathered to discuss what had happened. "This is not natural," Chief Okafor said. "The spirits are angry." Everyone turned to Adana. "It started when she came," Ifeoma whispered. "Perhaps she is still cursed." Obina stood in front of his wife. Adana did nothing wrong. But the people were afraid. And fear turns to blame. "The spirits will not stop until they get what they want," one elder warned. Obina's heart pounded. "And what do they want?" The elder's gaze was grave. "They want Adana, or a sacrifice in her place." "The tension is rising. Let me know if you want even more expansions." Here's the next expansion of the story, adding even more depth, suspense, and twist. Adana's heart pounded. The elders wanted a sacrifice, but she refused to return to the river. Obina held her tightly. "There must be another way." The village elders remained silent. Then Chief Okafor spoke. "There is one way," he said. "A ritual to sever the last connection between Adana and the river. But it is dangerous." Adana's breath hitched. "What must I do?" The chief looked at her solemnly. You must confront the river goddess herself. A hush fell over the crowd. Impossible, one villager shouted. No one faces Nwanyi Mmiri and returns, another warned. Adana looked at Obina. His eyes were full of fear, but she knew there was no other choice. I will do it, she said. Mama Chidelu gave Adana a small black stone wrapped in red cloth. This will protect you, she said. But only for a short time. She also gave her a sacred staff carved from the oldest tree in the village. When you reach the river, do not bow, do not show fear, Mama Chidelu instructed. Speak with courage, or she will swallow you whole. Obina held Adana's hands. I will go with you. She shook her head. This is my battle. Obina clenched his jaw. Then I will wait for you. I will not leave your side. With a heavy heart, Adana set out for the river. The moment she reached the water's edge, the river stilled. The wind stopped. The trees grew silent. The air felt thick and heavy. Then, the water rippled, and a figure rose from its depths. It was Nwanyi Mmiri. Her silver robe shimmered. Her dark eyes locked onto Adana. You dare return? She asked, her voice like the crashing of waves. Adana gripped the staff. I have come to break my bond with you. Forever. The goddess laughed, a cold and cruel sound. Foolish girl. You were never meant to live. The water surged, rising high. Adana stood her ground. I am no longer yours, she shouted. The river goddess's eyes glowed. If you wish to be free, then fight for it. Suddenly, the water exploded around Adana. Giant serpents made of water lunged at her. She swung the sacred staff, striking one down, but another wrapped around her leg. Obina, watching from the shore, screamed. Adana. Adana struggled, but the serpent pulled her toward the water. Then, she remembered the black stone. With all her strength, she crushed it in her hand. A blinding light burst forth, sending the serpents crashing back into the river. The goddess shrieked as the energy surrounded her. Adana pointed the staff at her. Let me go. Forever. The goddess's form flickered. The power of the stone was too strong. With a final cry, Nwanyi Mmiri vanished into the depths. The river turned calm once more. Adana fell to the ground, exhausted. Obina ran to her, pulling her into his arms. It's over. The villagers, who had watched from a distance, whispered among themselves. The river is at peace again, Chief Okafor said. She has won. Mama Chidelu stepped forward, touching Adana's forehead. You are free now, child. Truly free. Tears streamed down Adana's face. After everything, she had finally broken the river's hold on her. Adana pointed the staff at her. Let me go. Forever. The goddess's form flickered. The power of the stone was too strong. With a final cry, Nwanyi Mmiri vanished into the depths. The river turned calm once more. Adana fell to the ground, exhausted. Obina ran to her, pulling her into his arms. It's over. The villagers, who had watched from a distance, whispered among themselves. The river is at peace again, Chief Okafor said. She has won. Mama Chidelu stepped forward, touching Adana's forehead. You are free now, child. Truly free. Tears streamed down Adana's face. After everything, she had finally broken the river's hold on her. Obina kissed her forehead. Let's go home. And for the first time in a long time, Adana felt at peace. But deep in the river's depths, unseen by all, something still stirred. This is the end of our story. Lesson from the story: the power of identity, courage, and redemption. This story teaches the importance of embracing one's true identity and the courage to break free from forces that seek to control or define us. Adana's journey shows that while our past may shape us, it does not have to control our destiny. It also highlights the strength of love and loyalty. Obinna stands by Adana despite fear and uncertainty, proving that true love is not just about admiration but also standing together through challenges. Lastly, the story warns about the consequences of secrets and the power of redemption. Adana had to confront the truth about herself, and only by facing it could she reclaim her future. In life, avoiding or hiding from the truth can bring suffering, but facing it with courage can lead to freedom and peace. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, kindly comment, like, and share more. So, let us know what you learned from the story. Please do not hesitate to subscribe for more interesting stories like so. Hope to see back. Bye.